Hello and welcome to the Overland Journal podcast. I am your host, Scott Brady, and I'm joined today by my co-host, Matt Scott. In today's podcast, we talk about the year 2022. As the year comes to an end, we reflect back on the significant innovations that have happened within the overland industry, some of the shakeups, and unfortunately, some of the losses that we've had as a community. We also talk about the gear that we've really fallen in love with and the vehicles that we've also built out for our own travels. So please enjoy this wide-ranging conversation about 2022 with Matt and me. This content is brought to you by Overland Journal, our premium quality print publication. The magazine was founded in 2006 with the goal of providing independent equipment and vehicle reviews, along with the most stunning adventures and photography. We care deeply about the countries and cultures we visit and share our experiences freely with our readers. We also have zero advertorial policy and do not accept any advertiser compensation for our reviews. By subscribing to Overland Journal, you're helping to support our employee-owned and veteran-owned publication. Your support also provides resources and funding for content like you are watching or listening to right now. You can subscribe directly on our website at overlandjournal.com. All right, Matt.
We're talking about 2022 in 2023.
We are. Yeah. So we're
going back in time.
It's first couple of weeks of 23. 2019 was great. 2020 was like, what happened? 2021 was like the entire industry was holding on to its, shoelaces. And then now
we're here.
Yeah, we're here. And travel is now opening back up again.
Yeah, pretty much.
In most ways, unless you want to cross Russia, which would probably be a little complicated.
You know what?
And having crossed Russia, I don't know that it would be high on my list.
I really want to do the Trans-Siberian Railway.
That would be worthwhile.
And every time that I'm like that was one of the things I really wanted to do during the pandemic. I think we all sat at home for the most part and we're like, oh, well, where are we going to go when things open back up?
Yeah, sure.
And I've always wanted to do the Trans-Siberian Railway. And every time I get close to doing it, Russia invades someone.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I want to come to your country because there's such a wealth of history there.
Absolutely.
That has been basically, for our generations, blocked. There's all this wonderful history of literature and art. And
yes.
I mean, you've been to
and the people are wonderful. I mean, St. Petersburg, beautiful city.
What's the museum in St. Petersburg?
The starts with an H.
Hermitage.
Hermitage, yeah.
Yeah, totally want to go.
Yeah, it's great. Let's open up the borders and let's let in tourists and let's all have a good time. A couple oligarchs don't get to have their new toys.
They were issuing 10-year visas and you could actually go and multiple entry stuff. Well, so yeah, that's how 2022 started for most people was a very inconvenient war that drove up gas prices, made overland travel even harder, started crashing the economy. So we've covered that. Where do we go from there?
Well, I think that 2022, it's just good to look back on the year. I mean, we, as an overland industry, we lost Bill Swales of Earth Roamer.
Yep.
For me personally, he was a good friend. He helped us start Overland Journal as a magazine. He founded Earth Roamer as a company. He was featured in Four Wheeler magazine on a regular basis, which is
that Ram he had.
That's right. He had a Ram. And it was his first Earth Roamer. And that's another loss that we have in 2022 is the end of Four Wheeler magazine. This was for me when I would read the stories of Bill Swales or Gary Amano Westcott of the Turtle Expedition. These were formative stories for me, and Four Wheeler was always a little bit more thoughtful, a little bit more travel oriented. And it's the end of an era. I mean, there are very few off-road magazines left. And that is simply because the industry has definitely shifted towards overlanding. So fortunately, like Overland Journal is a publication, we're doing great and we continue to grow because the industry is growing. But it's sad to see four-wheeler.
But off-roading's growing too. And I
in certain ways, just not in that way. Yeah.
They had a lot of redundancy in titles. You know, the magazine has got thinner and thinner and thinner and thinner, and the ad percentages seem to just go up and up. And it seemed like a lot of recycled content towards the end. And, you know, they had huge distribution and they had really great people. I mean, they had Sean freaking Holman.
Exactly. Total talent.
Huge talent. And, you know, that dude would have done anything, but it just felt like he was in handcuffs or something.
It seemed like it.
Because there's no reason that he couldn't have made that work if allowed to.
And I think he made it work a lot longer than anybody thought was possible. You know, and
I don't know what
Sean will go on to do great things.
Yeah, Sean's a stellar talent in the industry.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, you know, and then personally, you know, I lost my mom, and that happened in January of 22. And I look back, and my mom was always the one that liked to know what was over the next horizon. You know, both of my parents were always so encouraging of me doing whatever it is that I liked. But my mom always had that creative spark. She was an artist, and her dad was a chief warrant officer in the Marines, and they traveled around the world. They lived in Guam, and they traveled all over the place. She loved
that was your spark.
Yeah, she loved to be able to do that. And she was always such an encouragement of me traveling. So for me personally, of course, that's a huge loss. And for those that are listening, when you lose a parent, it really does start to shift your perspective in some ways. And it just makes me all the more grateful for the time that I spend with people that I love. Doing things that I love makes me even less interested in the stuff. So, you know, for me, that was a pretty formative change, and I'm just so proud of my family for how we've all come together. So, but you know, that was a big change for me. And then, of course, in 2022, we also lost the Land Cruiser. So, like, you know, 2022 was not a great year for North America in any way. Overlanding, we have more and more solutions, and you listen to Toyota and you listen to the executives at Toyota say that we're all in on overlanding. That is a direct quote from the VP of marketing for Toyota North America. We are all in on overlanding, and yet they removed the most significant overlanding model, which is the Land Cruiser, from the lineup.
It just couldn't compete in the U.S. market, right? I mean, it was an expensive vehicle. It was a vehicle that the expense came in durability and quality, not short-term what's hot now kind of thing. I mean, like, Americans bought more convertible Ferraris than Land Cruisers. Like, whenever I talk to Australian companies, they're like, oh yeah, you know, because obviously, like, I import stuff for a living. It's, well, yeah, Land Cruiser this and Land Cruiser this. I'm like, dude, like, there's no market for it. Like, oh, we sell 50,000 a year. I'm like, well, we buy more convertible Ferraris than we do Land Cruisers. And that is not a joke. Look it up.
But we do get the LX 600. So it's the Lexus version of the Land Cruiser.
That has like the Bane mask on the front.
I know. Yeah. I mean, the Lexus design language that applies to their cars, which I think is very personal choice. It's fine.
Yeah.
But it does not translate. Yeah. And, you know, they have some models that are a little bit better.
But like, I know people say, like, we have the LX 600. I'm like, yeah, well, who cares? Honestly, like,
I like it.
It makes sense.
It drives nice.
Like the LX, like, it drives nice. It has great underpinnings, but you have to rip off so much of that vehicle.
That's true.
That you're taking now what is $100,000 plus vehicle with labor and parts and everything these days. You're looking at $120,000, $130,000 vehicle to get something that,
and
sorry, won't rip its spoiler off on a curb.
Now we have things like the Grenadier. So
but
we have Gladiators and we have Grenadiers and we have all kinds of other great vehicles that are other options.
They are talking about the 300 coming back. I thought there was some news and some rumors. I saw some
lots
stuff
of
on
rumors.
Roman from TFL kind of had a little scoop on that.
There's lots of rumors. I think what we're going to see is an even more capable version of future 4Runners. Toyota has a huge network of platforms that they can draw on to build interesting cars.
2022 is almost like, I mean, this is maybe controversial, but like, is it the downturn of Toyota? Like, think about it. The Tundra launches to major problems. I mean, I think it's the first time Consumer Reports didn't recommend the Tundra.
Yeah. And they forgot to put tow hooks on the front of it.
Yeah. Like they'll
it's like, there's no excuse that you can come up with where that makes sense. Period.
Yeah.
It's just a mistake.
They'll get it right. But like the 4Runner literally hasn't changed. And I mean, are we at a decade? I mean, they did a new headlight in 2000.
Yeah, we're more
15?
We're more than a decade.
They're reliable. There's a good aftermarket support for them. Right. They're a great choice, but the whole product line is long in the tooth. I mean, the Tacoma is just a redesigned previous generation.
Yeah, and it got a new engine, but yeah, the chassis and the suspension architecture.
I was skiing this week and I saw a prototype in Arizona of the new Ram, not half ton, I guess it'd be medium. Mid-size. Yeah. I mean, heavily camouflaged. You couldn't see it, anything other than it was a heavily camouflaged. Clearly it was a Stellantis product because it was flanked by all of the Stellantis vehicles with manufacturer plates. One of the most heavily camouflaged vehicles I've seen since going back to the Gladiator, but you could tell a little bit more raked back windshield. It wasn't a Gladiator.
But they have the Gladiator platform to draw from.
But I guess that's
make a mid-size.
That's 2023, and I'm being naughty. We should go back to 2022.
Yeah, so I think, and 2022 was definitely the year of, and so was 21 of overlanding, and it continues to grow. Toyota says we're all in on overlanding. GM is now
the one that's making the biggest strides.
All in on overlanding, and they're making like all of these really honest vehicles. Like you can go buy an AEV GMC. Like this is crazy. Like it's steel bumpers, full size truck. Winch capable, Multimatic suspension, front and rear lockers, 33-inch tall tires, rock slider. I mean, it's really cool. There's nothing like it. I had no idea there were that many off-road enthusiasts at GM, but they are there and they're very vocal. Again, this is where it makes the difference is they start the AT4 lineup. They sell like crazy. It actually starts to outpace the Denali line. And they realize like, oh my gosh, we have to make more off-road capable vehicles because people buy them. So they're realizing that, and we're seeing a lot more. I mean,
they're the company that's all in on overlanding.
Yeah. I would also just compliment Toyota on like supporting people like X Overland, who they're super legit overland travelers. They care about the industry. They started when the industry started. Toyota is supporting big expeditions for X Overland, which I think is just something to be complimented on. The Sequoia is low and wide, so it is meant for barge-like activities, but it is very easy to lift and put 35
No, I mean, I think it looks good. I think the TRD Pro one, it looks really good. I think it's cool that they're doing that, but
yeah, they're going to crush it with that. That's a really great model. I think that they got out of the gate with a good solution on that. But again,
the thing is like you can make a change, but like these nameplates, if they would have called that something different, all of a sudden it has a different image that comes to mind.
Maybe I think the Sequoia.
Why did you buy? Why do people buy Sequoias?
Why did they buy them? Is because it was a 7-passenger Toyota. Yeah.
But then you look over and it's like, gee, I wish I could have afforded the Land Cruiser. It's like buying the Cayman as a 911. Like Jeremy Clarkson's kind of said that as like, it just seemed like a weird price point kind of.
Well, you can't buy a Land Cruiser anymore. And they significantly improved the Sequoia. It's a much better vehicle, and it's got a lot of aftermarket support right out of the gate. So they're gonna do really well with that. But they need to make sure that the next vehicles that they come out with are the same kind of, from the previous Sequoia to the current one. It's such a huge leap in performance and desirability and attractiveness, like everything across the board. It's just a way better vehicle. And hopefully Toyota continues to do that in my mind. But across the board, you've got entire manufacturers, huge manufacturers, GM and Toyota, the two largest OEMs in the world, and they are both wanting to make a lot of overland vehicles. So it's pretty exciting.
The Bronco Raptor is crazy cool. That's another new one, I guess, for 2022.
Yeah.
I haven't driven that one yet.
I drove it. It is not fair for me to be negative at all about that vehicle because it has a very unique application that does not align with
an off-road Hoonie vehicle.
Yeah, it doesn't align with any of my values or my interests. I did like, and I do like the Bronco. So there are versions of the Bronco that I find very attractive and would even drive and own. That is not the one. So it's just,
I think that the wild I mean, there's like 12 different Broncos.
Yeah, exactly. It's hard to say.
Some of them just like already are aging really bad. I think like the wheel wells are too big for most of the models that people are buying.
I've got
a bone to pick with Bronco.
I think they're awesome. So I really like them. I just don't. This is probably the best way for me to describe it is that we have consumer available vehicles that are intended to be driven at speeds that the consumer is not trained properly to do, and that public roads never intended for them to drive. The speed limit in the national forest is 25 miles an hour.
I actually didn't know that.
25 miles an hour. That's the speed limit on a national forest road.
I am a felon in that case.
Well, and so am I.
I have gone 27 miles an hour.
And I do drive faster than I should at times, but we have to be really mindful of the fact that we have also a responsibility. We have to tread lightly. We have to be careful with other people that are on the trail. People are out walking their dogs. They're riding bicycles. There's grandparents driving around in their Tacoma. And here comes the typical Raptor buyer is not a qualified operator of a vehicle.
Of course.
So that's a challenge. It's a challenge. So that's not what this podcast is about, but it really is a concern for me. Yeah. So I'm a little careful about promoting those kinds of vehicles because the manufacturer doesn't take any responsibility about educating the consumer of their responsibilities when they use a vehicle that's that fast.
Power is great, but knowing how to use it and when to use it. I mean, like that TRX I had, I think it was mental. I mean, it was crazy. It was crazy fun. The problem is, like, I think we're in this age of like go fast overlanding, not go fast campers. Like, but like my overland truck has to be a rock crawler, a Baja 1000 truck.
The cool thing about doing all that stuff to your truck is that you don't actually have to spend any energy traveling anywhere. So that's the dichotomy of today is that we have this enormous amount of energy that is spent and money that is spent on stuff and accessories and this impression of capability, and no one gets training and no one actually travels anywhere, or very few do. But that will shift. That's common.
I think the brakes are already at the middle to the end of 2022. Yeah. I think we started to see the brakes get put on that. Yeah. Like this unbridled spending in the industry, it all of a sudden, I mean, like I go back to when I started working for you in 2010, 2011, it was like, if you had a new car, that was just like, oh my gosh. Like,
it was unheard of.
It was unheard of.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with spending money on your vehicle. And we can maybe talk about, these are some of the philosophical considerations that I had after 2022 is that in our life, we're trying to balance wealth and we're trying to balance experiences and we're trying to balance our time. We're trying to balance our health. And I think anytime those things get out of balance, that you end up with this very dysfunctional result. So there's nothing wrong with buying accessories for your vehicle, but if you're spending more money on the vehicle and the accessories than you do on the experiences, then that will be something you will regret later on in life.
And it always remains true of all the people I talk to. And I've met a lot of just wonderful people through this community, but I wish I had the money to travel. It's like something that so many people say. And then I look at, you add up what they've spent and I'm like, geez, like, well, you do have the money to travel. You just need to prioritize it.
That's right.
Right. And I do see this trend starting to happen of less extravagant vehicles. Simpler vehicles. I'm seeing a lot more crossovers. I'm seeing a lot more vans, things that enable people to get out. And it's like I feel like the guys that had the Honda Civics with the wings that all of a sudden had kids and got into overlanding. They're now like, they're on to the next thing. It's just a trend, and it's left the core people that actually want to go and do stuff. And I have to wonder if that's not going to be better for everybody.
I think it will. I think that people are becoming more aware of just being, honest with themselves about what they really want. But if you look back at like a Dan Grech, that he leaves Canada in his 2-door soft top Jeep and he drives all the way down to the end of South America.
Well, we all want to be Dan Grech.
Exactly. Because the guy, he went and had the experiences, and people say, I wish I had more money. Well, would you trade places with Warren Buffett today? He's worth $100 billion. Would you trade places with Warren Buffett today? Most people are going to say no, because the guy has an expiration date that's coming up quickly. He's 91, 92 years old. How much of that $100 billion can he actually enjoy at that stage in life? At the end of the day, all we really have is time and experiences with the people that we want to do things with. And if we're willing to give up time, because every time you buy something, you've had to trade some of your time that you worked for it. So how much of my time am I willing to trade for this gadget, or how much of my time am I willing to trade for something that is just a signaling device, as opposed to actually having an experience. That's why you and I like to go do things. We want to go have experiences.
I started like doing things in the last year or two and just not telling people about them.
Yeah, sure.
You know, if it doesn't happen on Instagram, it didn't happen in this space. Sometimes. Sure. You know, I encourage people to go camping and leave your camera, turn your phone off.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Figure out if you like it.
I think that's a positive thing that I've seen is people are getting out and traveling, and people are talking about where they want to go again.
Yeah.
Richard and Ashley, they're shipping their vehicle over to Europe and they're getting ready to travel.
People in the world.
Of course they are. So you've got all of these people that are saying, okay, we're going to go do this, and we're going to not. They chose to use the Tundra that they already had. Certainly could have waited and bought a more expensive vehicle and all that other stuff, but they said, we're going to go. Yeah. And I think that that's something that's really encouraging for me to see. So, and I also think that 2022 was kind of the year of tech within overlanding
for sure.
too. So one of the most significant developments, and this personally affected me in so many positive ways, was the availability of mobile Starlink. So I spent my entire summer driving around in my AT4 with a Scout camper.
Scotty got all boho chic on us.
Well, I just camped out every night, and I could work, and the Starlink enabled me to be at 9,000 feet up in the aspen trees with not a soul in sight. And I could do the work.
It's such a cool technology.
Yeah,
and it's going to continue to expand.
Yep.
You know, right at the end of last year, we also, you know, there's been 3 different Starlink dishes. There was round dishy.
Yes.
Square dishy.
Yep. That's right.
And now we have the mountable in motion high performance dish.
That's right.
I guess is what they call it. Which is still sitting in my garage that I need to install. And
they work on a sailboat, and they work on an RV, and they work on a, whatever in motion as well. So the ability to do knowledge work remotely from like a whole new definition of remote.
Yeah.
So you're not just in the cabin where you've still have internet connection. You're anywhere you want to be. And that is, it's so exciting for me. It's personally so exciting to be able to do that.
It's reliable technology too.
I use it every single day.
Yeah.
And, where I live, I've got Starlink. And when I travel, I got Starlink. It's a different dish. I got Starlink, and I use it every single day. And it's incredibly reliable, very little downtime.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I mean, I think that has I think like for van life, like I think that the industry is going to continue to move more towards these live-in vehicles or off-road trailers or whatever, because it's a paradigm shifter of all of a sudden, I don't have to be sitting at home.
Yeah.
And, people have been able to work remotely for a while, with cellular based stuff, but it was only so good. Like you noticed certain areas. One of my favorite parts of the desert in Arizona is around Wickenburg. It's this unique combination of a little bit higher of elevation. So it's a little bit cooler. You get the drainage from like Hassayampa River. So it's pretty lush. There's like 2 or 3 places out there that, I mean, it's like tent city because there's a cell tower there.
Yeah.
Now, the last time I was down there, and we're in that season of boondocking, which is awesome. People can go a little bit further. And I think that it will almost as overlanding becomes more popular, and I mean, not even just as overlanding, as boondocking, RVing, this mobile lifestyle becomes more popular. It allows people to disperse a little bit more, which places less strain on very specific places.
It totally does. I've been traveling recently with this Explorer trailer. It's an X145.
Oh, so that's the one that you were charging the...
Yeah, I actually charged the tow vehicle. I was towing it with a Rivian. Yeah. I was able to charge the Rivian from the trailer. So 1,080 amp hours of lithium ion batteries. It's got 1,000 watts of solar on it. And so, I pulled it out into a remote area outside of Wickenburg. It was absolutely stunning, right along the boundary of a wilderness area. There's not a cell tower or cell reception in sight, which means there's no other people. And I set this thing up, got it leveled, and I spent days working and just hiking, enjoying. It got rainy. The new trailers and the new campers are just awesome. I mean, this is This is definitely the most Scotty approved trailer I've ever used. It's got the Cruisemaster suspension underneath it from Australia. It's super robust platform, has a dry bath. So you can actually spend like weeks living out of the thing, which is kind of a game changer.
I love a dry bath.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's just sometimes a wet toilet gets old.
Yeah. Well, it's just if you're going to go live remotely, sometimes you need a few creature comforts if you want to be working. So I choose to work remotely, and that is totally feasible for me. So I think that that's a big deal. Obviously, EVs are another huge development around technology.
It's like the year that the EVs started to get taken seriously.
Yeah, 25,000 Rivians were produced in 2022. We drove both models. They provided us with no compensation. They're not an advertiser, but the Rivian R1T is just an amazing truck. The R1S, the SUV, it's one of the finest SUVs I've ever driven of any kind.
They're really good.
Yeah, they're really good.
They're good looking.
Yep.
As opposed to the Hummer. The Hummer obviously is like impressive performance and whatever.
For me, the Rivians are just like, if I was to design an EV, it would be the
size of a first gen Tundra.
It is. It's perfect. Yeah, it's perfect. And I love the interior. It's like a Herman Miller chair on the inside. The design is very simple and elegant, and they're very capable off-road. EVs, as far as I'm concerned, like we've got to remove this political stuff. The biggest mistake that's happened around EV was this whole regulation of internal combustion vehicles in California. Like that is the worst thing that could ever happen to EVs, because now people are going to feel like, why are you telling me what to buy?
You cannot tell Americans what to do.
Well, because it's also a bad idea. Yeah. Let the consumer choice dictate which products are going to be successful in the marketplace.
When California did that, I'm sure if you watched your home value on Zillow, it probably jumped immediately after that. You can really like internal combustion engines.
Which I do.
Yeah. And like electric cars.
Of course. This whole EV hate thing it's just hilarious to me. But of course, it's the way that people have to be so,
a lot of times
so polarized.
People only read headlines.
Yeah, sure.
And then we get in, we're like victims of the algorithm, right? Mm-hmm. And people just get in this feedback loop of the same things. And I also think that a lot of the information that people are reading is, I'm not going to say inaccurate, but very outdated.
Yeah.
A lot of the things that people are saying about the lifespan of EV batteries and the recyclability and whatever, that was very true 10 years ago.
Yeah, it's no longer
5 years ago.
Yeah. And you think about it, the first version of the iPhone was pretty good. The current version of the iPhone it's amazing that it even exists. It does everything.
I don't charge my battery anymore. I charge it at night and
I know. And so they're going to resolve all this stuff around EVs. It's not going to be for everybody, but we were interested how they work. So we drove the Hummer over El Camino del Diablo, which is the longest.
Which is an accomplishment.
It's the longest unsupported overland route in the 48 states. And then we drove the Rivian R1S to the most remote point that you can access on a dirt road in the United States. So to say that you can't overland an EV is obviously ridiculous. So you can come up with some obscure use case that nobody actually ever does that maybe an EV wouldn't do well at, but to me, it's just not a big deal. The infrastructure is a problem.
Yeah, exactly.
So EVs are not the problem. The infrastructure is the problem. Another thing on the tech side is iPhone now has an SOS feature. So those who have a 14 Pro of any variety, you now have the ability to do SOS from your iPhone. So we're seeing more and more support for remote travel through the use of technology. So if you have a Starlink and an iPhone, you now have some redundancy around remote communication, and it's just built into the phone that you use.
I never thought about what that will do to the necessity for inReach or the necessity for the spot devices. That was something that I hadn't really explored.
Well, currently it's not a better solution because an inReach allows you to do non-emergency communications. So you can update your family and even make some decisions around work. There's a lot that can be done from an inReach. Eventually, the phone will have two-way communication.
I would be quick into my boots if that was my model.
Yeah, exactly. But they're going to figure that stuff out too. We're going to see an inReach in a watch before we know it. So to be able to have a smartwatch from Garmin with an inReach capability built into it, that's pretty awesome. They're already working, Garmin and Android are already working together on a program for Android phones and Android devices to incorporate satellite communication. It's going to just continue to improve, which all enables us to travel more effectively, which is awesome. Let's go to like just fun stuff. So like, what was your favorite new gadget for this year? Like, and it has like, let's pick a non-overlandy gadget. Like, what was your favorite thing that you got this year? And then what's been your favorite overlandy gadget?
Man, you're putting me on the spot here. You go first.
Okay, so this Dometic water system, it's awesome.
Yeah.
It's like, did it take that long to figure out like the easiest way to have running water in your camper or what? And I use it in the Scout. It's charges by USB. The tanks are square and they're smaller. And so I'm super impressed by that thing.
Yeah, you get the tappy thing.
It's just amazing. Too. Yeah, it's amazing. So that one I'm super impressed by.
Okay, this is like incredibly obscure, but I really like tools. Motion Pro makes the seal puller that has like a little pokey thing on one side. We're going to put a link to it. It's like $12.
Yeah, nice.
I use it like daily.
Nice.
Sorry, but that's my favorite gadget. Like
the seal puller.
The seal puller.
I like it.
I can take radiator hoses off really quickly. It's a motorcycle tool.
Yep.
But I use it for everything. I'm trying to get little. Sorry, I know that is incredibly boring.
No, it's not boring. It's what you like.
But that, like, as far as a gadget, I mean, that's my thing. It's favorite like thing that I acquired in 22. I really love my Leica SL2.
Yeah, I thought you'd say that. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I had shot Canon for a long time and not necessarily having to work or have profit associated to my images is when I really started to dive into Leica. And I've been into Leica for probably 10 years now, but on the rangefinder M side. So I finally decided, okay, well, I love the ethos of this company. I love the build quality. I like how the lenses that I'm buying are, I don't want to say investment pieces because I think the word investment is just way overused. I mean, what you say to your wife to justify buying something, this car is an investment. I'm like, yeah, okay, I use that one too, buddy. But they last for a long time. The L mount alliance is Panasonic, Sigma, and Leica now. So if there's an obscure, the problem with working with a Leica was always if you need a particular lens for something, the lens is going to be more than what you're going to, make in a month of shooting sometimes.
Yeah, sure.
So it was very hard to justify. But now if I need to get a weird wide angle or a tilt shift or this or that or whatever, I can buy the Panasonic version or I can buy the Sigma version. Obviously, you buy Leica for the glass. I did the 50 millimeter Summilux, the 24 to 90 Vario Elmar, and the 90 to 280, and I have the range.
You're set.
Again, gadgets and stuff is cool, but going back to travel is we're young. I'm 32, and we're starting to fill out our home together, and we're planning trips. We're going and saying, oh, we want a cactus landscape on that wall.
Yeah.
So now we're going and we're taking the roamer out and we're going to create a memory that's on the wall with the camera.
That's awesome.
Now, listen, like Leicas are a luxury. I get that you don't need that to create good images, but that's
something that you like.
I like it.
Yeah, exactly.
In 10 years of collecting rangefinder lenses, I haven't lost a cent on any of them.
Yeah, that's good.
So,
another thing that I was, I look back on the year and I was super impressed by is that 3-liter turbo diesel in my truck. I was just the other day, I was looking down at my average miles per gallon over a 400 mile sample.
Because you got that in 22 as well, right?
I did. Well, actually I got it in 21. So I got it in 21. The miles per gallon was 23 miles to the gallon average over 400 miles. That's on 35s with a 3.5-inch lift over a stock height.
So what was the lifetime?
No, for the last 400 miles, 23 miles a gallon.
That's crazy.
It's a full-size truck on 35s with a 3.5-inch lift and crew cab, 6.5-foot bed, and 23 miles of the gallon average, which some of that average included towing that trailer. Some of that average is interstate. Some of it's city driving. I mean, I've definitely, like when I'm on like a 55 mile an hour road, I've seen high 20s out of that. So like, it's pretty amazing to me.
I like that truck. It's the right size. You have a 6.5 foot bed.
Yep.
So you have the same bed that's on the Prospector. Yep. You get better gas mileage. Well, I mean,
you have 40s. So
yeah, that was probably my favorite car that it wasn't. The wagon was my favorite one, but my favorite overlandy thing was I had always wanted a Prospector.
Yeah.
And the stars finally aligned for me. That thing continues to impress me. I get 15 to 16 on it. I get about 14 towing a race trailer. It just goes. It's comfortable. It's quiet.
It's impressive.
Like it works. I'm about to re-register it.
Yeah.
Which is something. I don't know.
Yeah, that's quite the statement for you to have a car long
pickup
enough.
Trucks. We both have pickup trucks.
Yeah, and I get it now. Like I never got it before, but now I get it. The best daily driver I've ever had is a full-size American-made
It's such
diesel
a competitive
pickup.
segment.
Yeah. It's good. It's really good.
That's how you end up with this 3-liter diesel thing. It's kind of a shame that Ford's diesel didn't really go anywhere, but it was also from Jaguar.
They didn't pair it with the right transmission, and then they also had a really efficient turbo V6, so it was really close in miles per gallon.
Their EcoBoost motor it's really good. Is the chef's kiss. It is.
So you're not really incentivized, but if I was to compare it to the V8 for this same truck, I would never pick the V8. I don't like
LS3.
I don't know. I don't care for
6.2 liter thing.
It's loud and inefficient. Doesn't feel any more powerful than my diesel, and I get twice the gas mileage. So
it's a really nice truck. Super quiet inside too.
It's like incredibly.
GMCs are like hermetically sealed.
Yeah,
and I like.
It's a luxury truck brand, and it feels like it when you drive it. It's just like I got air conditioned seats and a heated steering wheel, and it's got heads up display and all the gadgets.
The heated steering wheel is a game changer for us in Arizona that suffer through very, very cold temperatures.
It gets cold here.
There's somebody in North Dakota that's watching this and is laughing.
That's their summer high. Yeah, exactly.
Cold.
Exactly. What do you have going into 2023 for vehicle projects? What are you focusing on in 23? You've been tinkering with the G-Wagon.
World's slowest G-Wagon. Yeah. I have a 1991 W463 G-Wagon, and for 2 years only, they made them with a manual transmission. It was imported out of Germany. Yeah, so I've been working on this thing, and it's really just been I pull it in the garage, I crack a beer, and I'm going to clean this door hinge. I'm really trying to kind of bring it back, because the cool thing with the G-Wagon is that they're so well made. Oftentimes it's just a matter of cleaning and service.
Oh, sure.
To keep them going.
Yeah, that's how I kept mine going for 12 years.
It has 100 horsepower and 142 pound-feet of torque, and it weighs probably as much as my Prospector.
They're heavy. Over 5,000 pounds.
Yeah, they're like the doors, like you could kick it and it would be fine.
Yeah.
But it has that very 80s Mercedes feel, even though it was made in 91. And it's fun to actually really drive something.
I think it's awesome.
It puts a smile on my face. It was, as far as G-Wagons go, a comparative bargain. G-Wagons have, particularly during the pandemic, they're the Gucci handbag
of SUVs.
Yeah. The cool thing is, in 5 or 10 years, when all of these people move on to the next thing, and all of these G-Wagons are just going to be sitting there on the market, we'll have all these fantastic, trucks. They're just always in the weirdest colors for overlanding. They're either black or pearl white. This one's
purple.
or purple or something. Obviously Scott and I love G's. But yeah, that's been really fun. And then I also have a 1965 BMW R50/2 that I've been working on, and I keep that in Chicago with my dad. And it's been a really nice project to be able to fly out. And each time we tackle something, we're working on carburetor tuning now, and realize that just, float was bad and kind of the carb slides messed up, and we had to buy some new parts for the next time I come back. But I think I'm going to try and ride that Route 66.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. And that one it's very slow.
Yeah, it's awesome.
But it's
so good.
I bought BMW reissued a toolkit for it. And I changed the oil, rebuilt the carburetors, did everything just with the quasi-factory toolkit that fits in a little compartment behind the rubber knee pad in the tank. So you have this vehicle, you're talking kind of the idea of classic overlanding to me has become really my focus, I guess, in 2023. That and, grand touring in classic vehicles. We've talked about on the podcast before that a lot more people are doing overlanding than ever, and the world's a lot more paved than it used to be. So that opens up new opportunities for vehicle-based exploration.
Totally. Yeah.
I'm working on this.
The classic road trip.
Yeah, this 68 911. So it's the first, if there's any Porsche geeks out there, it's the first 911 generation. It's a short wheelbase. So it's kind of I'm not going to say the purest 911, but no radio, no nothing in it. It's had some things stripped out of it. It weighs about 2,100 pounds, and it's puts a smile on my face. And
that's gorgeous.
And I'm trying to figure out where
it's one of the most beautiful cars I've ever
again,
seen.
it's all about, for me, I do feel fortunate to be in a place to have these cool toys. But if you don't get out and use the cool toys, what's the point?
It's all about experiences.
It's about the experiences, and I happen to love cars and the experiences that they bring me.
And the connections and the community that comes around it.
2022 is also kind of the year of off-road Porsches, I guess.
Yeah, I know. Which is
I'm going to hijack this and talk about Porsches for a little bit. We had the 911 Dakar.
Yeah, I don't even know.
That was a cool project. That has Max Tracks on it.
Yeah.
Shameless plug. And, this off-road Cayenne thing has become like a movement. Because you can go and get a Cayenne. I mean, I kid you not. Like, go on Craigslist, or I say Craigslist. What I mean by that is go on Facebook or whatever. You can get a pretty decent Cayenne for $5,000 to $7,000. And for like $1,000, you can lift it and put 33s on it. And it is like a rally car. I mean, Porsche came out and said that the lineage of the 959 is the Cayenne. 959 is this hyper limited production 1980s super sports car. But those things have like blown up, and they're affordable. And I love it. I like how the Tacoma is the bougie thing and the Porsche is like cheap and affordable.
Sure.
And it drives some people nuts.
Yeah.
But they have a locking rear differential. They have low range.
Yeah, they're cool. Airbag suspension.
And then like Safari 911s, very, very trendy, very on trend right now.
The only Porsche that I ever think about and lust after is that white 68 that you've got. That's an amazing, beautiful vehicle.
My dad warned me about Porsche people when I was young. He's like, oh, all they care about is the build sheet and the specifications, and they go to Porsche club meets and I'm like, I've realized in 2022, I am the Porsche person my dad warned me about. But I think, anyways, my little project, grand touring, eccentric kind of classic vehicles, older vehicles that, you can hop in the Prospector or whatever, and you're so isolated from the experience. Not to say that that's bad, but just something new. Like we've both been doing this for a while, you longer than I.
Well, and I'm looking at what project would be next, and I just don't know. I think maybe it would be a Gladiator, maybe it'll be a full-size heavy duty, but actually right now, everything that I'm considering buying or doing goes through this filter of, is this where I want to spend my time? Mm-hmm. And if you spend money, you're also spending time. That's the most important thing to remember, is every dollar that you spend or every $100 that you spend is worth X amount of your life, your life energy, your
you don't
time.
Get it back.
You don't get it back. So it costs, let's say, a certain number of hours to make $100. For some people, it's maybe 1 hour or whatever, but it takes a certain amount of your time to get that $100 to then spend it on whatever. And so for me, I'm just not feeling motivated to spend time on things.
Well, you have the freedom to go and do,
and it's been a very intentional process.
Yeah.
And it's required a lot of giving up other things. I don't have a dog, which I love dogs, but I don't have a dog because I want to have, I guess the goal for me in 2023 is to just be able to be my own sovereign individual, which means that I get to wake up in the morning and I get to do the things that I love, which happens to still be my job.
Yeah.
So I'm not really willing to sacrifice that for any things. So I might just keep driving the Defender around. that's where I think I like some of these factory capable vehicles, is then you could buy something stock, leave it stock, and then just go have experiences with it.
It's the Grenadier, man.
Yeah, the Grenadier or
honestly,
or
Grenadier or anything AEV.
Yeah, exactly. All that stuff is great.
Done. And I think that, we really in 2022 started to see, just the availability of turnkey packages.
Yep.
Because it's not really that easy to build something on your own these days. I mean, shops are, particularly, it's not as bad now, but looking back at the last 2 years during the COVID thing, if you wanted King shocks for your truck,
it wasn't possible.
It was like you ordered them in, when restaurants were still closed, and you just got them last week.
Yeah.
It's so attractive to just, I'll take that one.
Yep.
I'll take, whatever camper. Have you seen those Super Tramp campers?
Yeah, those are nice. In fact, I used one. It's great.
How was it? They look really cool.
It's super simple, really nice build quality, small business. Yeah. They really care about the product.
Yeah.
They're very, very cool.
I just think like stuff like that, like elevating the truck camper.
Yeah, sure.
Is going to be an emerging market this year and after that.
Because it also just really works. It really does work. And I think 23 is also going to see a lot of people getting back out and traveling. We're seeing a lot of people hitting the road. That I'm very excited about. So there's going to be stories for us to tell on the podcast. And the podcast is done really well. We're getting close to our 1 millionth download. We're so lucky to have Paula Burr, our producer.
Paula's dope.
Dope. She is dope because she makes all of this possible. She keeps me on track, keeps Matt on track. We produce a high quality result because of her care and energy that she puts into the podcast. And Matt, thanks for you being on the podcast and putting in your energy and expressing your opinions. I think
I do have opinions,
but I like the fact that you say what you think, because there's a lot of filters. And that doesn't protect anyone. So our Alaska podcast, we got a bunch of feedback that we didn't just say Alaska was perfect. There are times that of the year that Alaska is better than others, but there's also truths that need to be told to help people understand this is what you might experience when you go do this overland trip on your own. So that's where, for us, we're going to continue to focus on a journalistic perspective, which means we're going to always be open and honest about our experiences, even if they're contrary to popular opinions. So.
Yeah, I think it's important. I do have strong opinions sometimes, but...
Well, and I think, so strong opinions, this is my take on it. Strong opinions are critical, but they need to be loosely held.
Yeah.
So strong opinions firmly held, that's arrogance and ignorance, right? So that's the flat earther. Strong opinion, strongly held.
I think it's the ability to change your opinion.
That's right. So strong opinion, loosely held.
Yeah.
Which means that I feel strongly about this, or this has been my experience. But if someone shows me something different, or I have a different experience from it, and I'm constantly learning and I'm growing, which means I'm changing my opinions. Strong opinions, loosely held is the way that we want to go about it. And that's what allows us to continue to be a student. We get to learn. We get to continue to grow.
I mean, I'm a walking contradiction. I completely understand that I'm the guy that, says buy less stuff, but I'm the guy that has a lot of stuff. I get it. But I do both, and it's fun.
It's about being intentional about our decisions.
Yeah. Buy the stuff if it gives you the experience.
Of course. Or if it brings you joy in some way. We really appreciate you all listening. 2022 has been a formative year for the industry. So much has happened. There's so much to look back on, but your feedback is so critical.
Super critical.
So please,
keeps me in check. Otherwise I ramble.
Well, please reach out. So Matt, people can find you on Instagram. How's that?
Matt Explore.
That's right.
Sometimes I'm not on it though.
Yeah, that's okay.
Like I'm currently I think it's good to take breaks from social media. Of course it is.
Yeah, it's super important. And you can reach me, Scott.A.Brady on Instagram as well. You can reach out on any of our social media channels at Overland Journal on Instagram to give feedback, ask questions. We just really want to support our audience, and we also want your feedback on the topics that you'd like to hear or things that you'd like to see different. You matter a lot to us. We do this because we love it. And we appreciate you all listening, and we'll talk to you next time.